Hey guys, it's Vigrid here, and I was looking at the 1.18 patch, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I just think that Project Epoch's raiding scene will be a lot more attractive to potential raid leaders and potential guild leaders, and it'll be for several reasons. Some of them are more in Turtle Wow's control than others to do anything about, but we'll talk about the main ones right now that they can't really control, and that's the fact that the 1.12 client sucks and the 3.3.5 client is going to be dramatically better. It's going to have an updated macro API. It's going to have access to the add-ons that are some of the most popular and powerful add-ons in the history of the game. We're talking weak auras. We're talking details. I mean, these are some really strong selling points, and Turtle Wow has already made considerable headway trying to make a Unreal Engine 5 client, and I don't want to discredit them or undersell how much of an effort that is, but unfortunately, in the meantime, they're dealing with the worst client possible. So it might be possible one day that Turtle Wow's UE5 client will actually overshadow the likes of the 3.3.5 client in some ways, but for now, the 1.12 client it's really bad, guys. I mean, people have basically have to uproot the whole game and install a whole new game in the terms of like Super WoW. They have to use NAM power so they can cast spells properly. They need another add-on so they can see enemies cast bars so that they can interrupt them or play around uninterruptible casts. I mean, there's just so many things wrong with the 1.12 client. If you don't really play Turtle WoW, just please take my word for it. So many features, so many things that you just take for granted. Like you can't, you go onto the 1.12 client for the first time. You go to make a macro, and you type in hashtag show tooltip, and then you end up spamming it in the in-game chat, and everybody laughs at you and makes fun of you and says, "Yeah, show me those tips, baby." Whatever. Like it's kind of funny, but yeah, there's not a whole lot like Turtle Wow. Turtle Wow has already done what they can do about that problem, but they can't really compete in that respect. And another thing that's just going to make Epoch a lot more attractive for guild and raid leaders is just that it's 10 and 25 man raids, and mo people, mo problems. The more people you have, the more of a pain in the ass it is to like organize raids, and the more difficult it can be to get raid events to fire and get them off the ground, because it's harder to get the people you need to get it done. It's as simple as that. And Turtle Wow has this kind of what I call the paradox of scaling. So they have this system where they will scale down, like the raids will actually scale down to a lower group size, right? So for instance, Molten Core can scale down to as low as like 20 players. So it's just a universal health and damage adjustment. I would really prefer if they flesh it out a bit more and make it a lot more comprehensive, because many people enjoy this feature, many people take it seriously, but maybe there's some sort of technical limitation that prevents them from doing things like tuning spell damage or making more comprehensive changes. But for now, it's just a health and damage buff. And yeah, so the paradox of scaling is that for the easiest raids, you scale all the way down to 20. And then for the harder raids, it scales down to 30, and then the harder raids and that scales. They've just made the new hard raid that they've released just now, just literally today. They announced that they're going to allow it to scale from 40 to 35. So it's been an entire patch cycle to go from 40 to 35. That's how long in the tooth this sort of thing is. It's been months. And it was the same way with Emerald Sanctum. It took them months and months and months for them to drop it to 30 to 40 like it is now. And what this ends up doing is it creates the paradox of scaling where you need, you don't need to be that serious or that discriminatory about what kind of people come to raid Molten Core with you, obviously, because it's Molten Core, it's very easy. So you can just get any random 20-foot draggers through the door and you can do the content. Okay, cool. And then you get to really, really hard content, and not only do you need more people, but you need more serious and more committed and just better geared players, right? And like players with better gear, players who consistently use consumables, players who just know how to play their class in general and can perform well on their class, right? That's what you need in order to tackle UKH. Like UKH is legitimately difficult content, and so it gets an order of magnitude more harder to get the attendance you need, because you need a specific type of attendance. You can't just get any random idiot through the door, right? So not only does the difficulty make it more exclusive, but the number of people you need to handle that difficulty makes it even more exclusive. And this is the paradox of scaling. The paradox of scaling is that the raids where you need scaling the most is where it scales the least. I think that Turtle WoW could really benefit from just a universal 20 to 40 scaling system. Maybe not immediately when the content is fresh. Let people do like the race the world first and stuff. But I think it's got a reputation as like a dad friendly server. It's like a dad guild server, but because it's vanilla, and raids in vanilla in general are pretty easy. And I just think it's pretty alienating to have that to just have that scaling paradox really, really hurting guilds. Yeah, that's just the way I feel about it. That's one way that Turtle WoW could really address the gulf between them and Epoch when it comes to Epoch being an order of magnitude easier to handle logistically. And I know I'm going to get some pushback from people. There's some people who are going to say scaling down 40-man raids like this is just contrary to vanilla. It's not in the spirit of vanilla to abandon 40-man raiding. And they're entitled to have that sort of opinion, I suppose. I can respect it. I can see where they're coming from. But at the same time, it's I think Blizzard abandoned 40-man raiding pretty quickly for a reason. I think they realized that it was kind of becoming too much of a barrier, and that's why they went to 25 in the very next expansion. And at the end of the day, I think it's just gonna make them a lot more competitive and more attractive to potential raid leaders and guild leaders, that they only have to go up to 25. The other thing, when it comes to complexity and just onboarding players into your raid, another pain point is going to be consumables, because I won't belabor this point too much because I already made a whole video about consumables. But the TLDR is that there's a lot of consumables in the game that take a considerable amount of time to farm. They stack and produce an overwhelming amount of player power. They're really unintuitive and difficult to understand. You basically need some fucking nerd like myself to link you a spreadsheet to figure out what the fuck is going on. Because, for instance, there are just buffs that buff the exact same stats, but for some reason, some stack with each other and others do not stack with each other and are functionally useless. And there's no way to know these things. You just have to know these things. It's just a knowledge gap that you have to fill in. And Epoch is doing away with that. Epoch is just saying, look, it's basically the TBC consumable system. You got Battle, a Guardian Elixir. We can have a flask that does both. And you got a food buff, and you got a weapon oil, and you're done. It's as simple as that. And then you have a few active items, and that's it. In vanilla, there's no joke, for my class, I play one of the least consumable intensive roles in the game, healer, and there are just 10 things I need to consume that just give me buff, just give me numbers, more buff icons in my top right hand corner of my screen, and they just give me power, and there's not much like complex. There's no interesting gameplay really spawned from them. They're just there, and they just make me dramatically more powerful than I would be without them. And I just think it's busy work. I think it sucks, and it would be one thing if they just kind of had this system unthinkingly as a leftover from vanilla, but the changes they made in this patch actually kind of double down and show that they want to double down on having this extremely complex and crazy consumable metagame. They added concoctions, which I just think is a terrible addition to the game. I think this is the worst change in the entire patch. I think that this is completely the wrong attitude to take. Like, the stated design goal is, and I'm quoting them directly, primarily to open up inventory and buff room for those who have to use these potions at the same time. Guys, the solution is not to give them this super consumable that mixes multiple smaller consumables to save inventory and buff room. The solution is to simplify the consumable metagame. The solution is to reduce the amount of bullshit people have to farm. The solution is to lower the overall power budget that players get from items. The solution is to make the fucking consumable system approachable and understandable for raiders, right? Like, without having to have like someone who's raided on the server for fucking months, if not years, explain it to them. That's where as far as I'm concerned, you fucked up 6 design decisions ago, and instead of going back and fixing that, you've basically doubled down on a terrible design, and you're it's so funny. You're scraping the buff cap. You're like, oh man, we have so many consumables in the game that we're hitting the 32 buff cap limit of the 1.12 client. Hey guys, should we maybe remove some consumable? No, just consolidate them into a super consumable. Completely asinine, completely idiotic. I can't believe that you guys actually came to this like conclusion and decided to put this in the game unironically. I mean, you do some things that like alleviate some like pain points in the economy, like changing these flask recipes and stuff. That's cool and all, but the main pain point economically is that there's so many fucking... It's not that any one individual consumable is too fucking expensive necessarily. It's that there's like a cajillion fucking consumables. So you get taxed here, get taxed there, get taxed here, get taxed there. And all of a sudden it adds up to a big amount in total. I did the math, to fully consume my elemental shaman for an hour of like progging content, it's about 100 gold an hour, right? When you take in like into account like wipes and stuff. That's just to buy it all off the auction house, mind you. You can probably do it cheaper if you like crafted it, but like think about that, like 100 gold an hour like burned on like prog rating. It's too much. Like it's just too much. And the other thing that's crazy about this is that you guys actually nerfed, like you actually buffed the HP and damage of like bosses, creatures on Azeroth, bosses and creatures in Molten Core, Karazhan, Onyx's Lair, Blackwing Lair. Like, you guys just blanket buffed a whole bunch of NPCs to represent the higher overall player power right now, but you didn't want to like lower the overall player power by addressing consumables. It seems kind of that seems kind of silly to me. Seems like you could have solved 2 birds with 1 stone right there, but I don't know. You guys are just doubling down on this crazy fucking consumable in a game, and I just don't understand it. It's going to be a lot more attractive for Epoch as well. And the last thing, like, I just want to cover briefly is like the itemization. I've already made another video about constant itemization changes and how I think they're inappropriate for the type of game where you accumulate loot this slowly. I think it's inappropriate for the kind of game where every item you get in a raid represents an item that somebody else could have gotten potentially as well. And I just think, I think that they should just, I feel like they're over designing and redesigning epic quality drops over and over again, much to the player's annoyance and chagrin. I feel like there's been a loss of stability. People can't trust that things are going to be, that items are going to be good when they think they're good and they loot them. People are putting items in the bank as backups in case something gets nerfed or something goes wrong. People are, it's just encouraging all sorts of behavior, and that loss of stability and that loss of finally getting that cool item that you've been chasing for months, just like being undercut by constant itemization changes that either make something else better or nerf the thing you got or whatever, right? It's just really inappropriate, and in my opinion, very much at odds with the vanilla loot system, in my opinion. Like I think it's very contrary to how things are done in vanilla. And I just think people are kind of getting resentful of these changes to raid items. I see people bitching about the changes to raid items. I see very few people who are excited for an item that got changed. I just think it's more trouble than it's worth. And it's also like there seems to be this reluctance to remove anything from the raid schedule. You've gone back to like the earliest tier of raiding and you've updated it and revamped it, and that'd be like one thing, but you've also like updated and revamped and added new gear and added new items, and it's like, well, shit, now I have to pursue that. Or do I have to pursue that now on my next best character? That seems a little inappropriate. That seems a little bit ridiculous. You have a lot of raids on Total WoW. It's fine to allow people to retire a number of raids from their raid schedule. People are just going to get oversaturated with raiding content and burnt out if they're going to have to be obligated to return to some of the earliest tiers of raiding. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. It should be a choice at that point. They should be like, I'm going to go to the Molten Core run with the boys and have fun and dick around, right? Like, I will probably play the revamped Molten Core on my fucking Bist out Shaman or whatever. Like, I only play one character. I'm going to go to Molten Core and check it out on my Bist out Shaman. But I should not feel obligated to return to Molten Core. And Epoch doesn't have that attitude. They had an interview with K-Totes, and he was talking about how, if they get a situation like where people are farming Thunder Fury when they're clearing Nax, if you're trying to farm an item that's from several tiers beforehand, we're just going to deem it necessary to nerf the item. We're just going to have to nerf Thunder Fury. I'm sorry. Like, they're actually willing to do that to kind of save the players from themselves in that respect and stop them from doing silly things. And the reluctance to allow people to just table a raid and be done with it, I think is a bit inappropriate as well. And that's part of like the itemization changes. So yeah, there's just so many factors that to me make it seem like Project Epoch is just a lot more attractive to a potential like raid leader or like guild leader. I don't know. You may disagree. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, wash my car and all that bullshit. Thanks for listening. Catch you later.